Okay guys, we're back with another episode of Faded Public after we absolutely smashed it last week. So, last week's episode, we had 3 bets and we went for some big odds, which is something that you don't see handicappers doing much with free plays because they try and give you safe bets so they get bigger win-loss ratio. We gave you a draw line, 3.6 decimal odds, cashed. We also gave you an underdog for the UFC at 2, I believe it's 2.45 decimal after we released that video, cashed as well. Then we predicted another draw, but the play we gave was over 2.5 goals, and that didn't hit. Still, massive profit. If you told all of them, you'd be up, what would you be up? So you'd be up 1.6, 1.4, so you'd be up something like 60% ROI. Fantastic. We smashed it as well in the VIP. If you follow in the Telegram, you'll see, great week. I told you guys, once the main league start, once the Premier League, once all the main league football starts, we're going to kill it because we did last year and these games are easier to predict. So, no further ado, let's get back into it. So, I'm going to read off some notes here to make sure I get everything. I'm going to put some screenshots of what I'm looking at for the data so that you can see. So, just going on with the theme that we had last week, we're going to also go with more draws. So we're going to be looking at today, bear with me. So we're going to be looking at, first of all, Palace versus Forest. So we like the draw here. Another draw bet. I think you can get this at the moment. I think it's 3.40 decimal odds, which is in that range. If you're new here, generally with draws, they don't function like underdogs. The higher the odds for a draw, the least profitable the actual bet becomes. The sweet spot is below 3.75 decimal odds. Draws below that, it basically means the bookies think it's gonna cash. Not many people bet the draw, so the bookies can give you good odds. Those are good odds. When the bookies set them higher than that, the chances are quite unlikely. So we like that. And we also like under 2.5 goals as well. So, the over 2.5, it hasn't hit when these two teams have faced each other for the past, since 2012. So, the past 13 years, that's not hit. So just stylistically, this matchup trends towards the under. And stylistically, sometimes there are teams, who will score a lot of goals, but whenever they face a certain team, they always go under. And that's because it's a difficult stylistic matchup. It becomes a stalemate, or it's just more tentative. Now look, I'm going to keep saying this, because people keep misunderstanding, but this does not mean it's not going to go over. That can happen. Sports betting is not an exact science. It's very difficult. All we can do is look at the data and make the best play that we can. And the data says under 2.5 here. And you're going to get that at some nice odds at the moment as well, close to even money. So, previously when we looked at the times these teams have faced each other, they've struggled to shut each other down. So that means it's like a back and forth game that stays very close. That's why we like the draw. So it looks like a 1-1 draw. So you could probably play the correct score. I think you're going to get 6.5 decimal odds, which is also quite low for a correct score. So the bookies also like that. So Forest defence can be easily shut down. And this makes for a game where it's a bit of a stalemate and it just goes into the mode where you're getting two teams attacking but nothing's really getting through. So this could easily be a boring game that ends 0-0, 1-1. One of these type of draws. So we like the draw for that. As a higher risk play, lower risk play, I would go for the under 2.5 goals. And if we're looking at the splits, just to explain where the public money is. So you've got 39% of bets on Forest at 3.3 decimal odds, and then you've got 61% on Palace at plus money, 1.3 decimal odds. So the bookies really want to draw here. You know, the bookies often want to draw because no one bets it, so they make money from both sides. But this is one of those cases where it seems like they're baiting both sides, so they think a draw is fairly likely. Now we're going to move on. We're going to go to Sunderland versus Burnley. Again, we like the under 2.5 goals here. Now, the under is really interesting because 90% of people bet the over every time, just like 90% of people bet the favourite. So I call the under the equivalent of the underdog in totals. Now, you're not always going to get that good value. You usually get good value because people are busy betting the over, but here the total's set low. So the under 2.5 goals is 1.62 decimal odds. So this is a lower odds play, but there's value there. Sunderland had a great game, scoring 3 goals against West Ham. even though they only had a 0.75 XG. Now XG, it's not the be all and end all, but that game they could have easily just got 1-2 goals there. So I think you're getting the total being overvalued, or you're going to see that anyway in general, and more people betting the over, which is why I'm suspicious why this line's so low as well. Sunderland are a good team, and Burnley are as well. So this is going to be a competitive matchup. The last season's head-to-head in the Championship shows a low-scoring game. So it was 1-0, and it can swing either way. So this is one of those games where you're going to get both teams shutting each other down. It's going to be close. Whoever can nick a goal, or just like we saw with Sunderland, they managed to nick 3 when they maybe shouldn't have done. Whoever can manage to nick the goal is probably going to win. So that's why we don't like betting a side in this game or in these type matchups, because it's probably going to be a close contest, and variance is going to screw you over a lot more. Variance is when something outside your control dictates the result of a game. So a penalty, a red card, these sort of things in a close game like this mean even more. VAR, that sort of thing. So instead we'll go for the under 2.5 goals. And if you look at this as well, so Sunderland and Burnley, what were they saying? So I think for Sunderland and Burnley, I'll whack up the splits afterwards, but there was nothing particularly exciting on the splits that made me think, oh, I want to pick one side or the other. It seems like one of those games that could go either way, or it could draw. And then finally, we've got one of our favourite people to bet. We've cashed him as an underdog a lot over the last year or two, and this is a UFC bet. And we're going to be betting against a big favourite here. So this is an even bigger underdog. And I'm going to be talking about someone that I've given away as a free play before. Cash last time he was fighting, we cashed 3 plays on this person. And that is Waldo Cortez Acosta. Now, this time he's got a very difficult matchup. He's fighting Sergey Spivak, who is going to be gunning for a victory. He had the knockout loss to Aspinall. He also had a decision as well. I can't remember who he was fighting now. But much like Waldo, he went to a decision. So Waldo's a decision machine. I said this in my previous breakdown when we bet Waldo. There's just something about him that seems to make fighters uneasy and go, oh, bloody hell. And I don't know if it's his power. I don't know if it's the fact that he's got a good chin, and when they hit him with what they think is a very powerful shot, he just stares at them blankly and keeps coming forward. There's something about him that makes fighters nervous, and it makes the fight become this staring contest where both fighters are kind of looking over at each other, and time elapses and time goes past quite rapidly. These fights also become very close because there's not so much activity, so it's harder to score, and in heavyweight one shot can dictate the fight. The other thing about Spivak is he did look unstoppable, you know. Before Aspinall, a lot of people were saying, wow, this guy is just so mean, he's so good. But what we've seen is when he can't overwhelm an opponent quickly, he does struggle. I think he took Lewis to a decision, perhaps. But the fighters who've got stronger chins and more composure are dragging the fight out. So we cashed Waldo Cortez Acosta by decision at, I think, 6-1 odds. We cashed him as a spread. So I think it was plus 3.5 at plus money, and we cashed the over 1.5 as a very big play as well in the syndicate. And his odds are really high here. So you've got 30% of people betting him, so his odds are at 3.05 decimal odds. And then you've got 70% of people betting Spivak, I think, at 1.44 decimal odds. And I think those lines are wide. I'm not saying Waldo's going to win, but I would take the over 1.5 rounds. And I think you can get that at 1.67 decimal odds at the moment. And I think that line is going up because people are betting the under because they think it's heavyweights. They think Spivak. They're high on Spivak. The market is just routinely undervaluing Waldo, even though he keeps winning as an underdog. So I'm not saying he's going to win, but I like his money line at 3.05 decimal odds, and I like the over. And if you're going to bet him, decision is good as well, because you're going to get 5-1 odds, and if he wins, it's probably going to be by decision. Also, stylistically, Pavlovich has got very good, solid boxing. How do you fight a boxer in MMA? You kick the legs. Waldo's got strong leg kicks. He has got power that people respect. He just doesn't connect on it, but the power alone keeps people away from him. He lost against, I believe it was Rogerio de Lima, who was an absolute beast. I'm very high on him. I don't think Spivak's going to have success wrestling him. He's going to try and box. Going to be one of these drawn-out matches that's going to be close. And in that case, you want to take the underdog, in my opinion, because the value is there. So I'm not saying he's going to win, but I think the fight's a lot closer than what the odds suggest, and I like the over. So those are the plays this week. We smashed last week, and actually I would encourage you to go and look at the previous episodes, because this series has had extremely good results. We predicted draws, we predicted underdogs, we've shown you why. Most of these tipsters out there, they're not handicappers, they're not making money betting sports, and they can't explain why they're making the plays that they're making. Or when they do, the rationale is just, oh, this is a favourite, they should win. That's not good enough. You want to make money sports betting, you've got to find the angles, you've got to find the draws, you've got to find the underdogs, you've got to find the totals, you've got to find the unders, you've got to find the spots that are the opposite of what the public's playing. And like last week, sometimes you want to take the public side, but you have to have the knowledge to know when to do that and when to fade the public. So, if you want to make a load of money, lock these in, hopefully we cash. But if you want to get on the really good plays, get into the free Telegram group, the link's in my bio, get into the syndicate or standard VIP if you want a cheaper option, but the syndicate is really where the good stuff is. We keep cashing, go and look at our free play record. We smashed it last week and we can keep doing the same. We are off to a great start, and this is what I keep telling people. With league football in particular, you can see, you've got a lot of data, so you can see how teams matched up last time. You've got a lot of data to pull upon. It's easier to make money. This is why I've kept saying we're going to be smashing it as soon as league football starts. 1 week in, we're in massive profit. Both groups, 120, 125% ROI for the week. If you know anything about sports betting, you'll know most professionals make 3 to 6% ROI. So those numbers are good. I've been telling you this was going to happen. If you actually want to start making money sports betting, get signed up to our service. And let's have it. Let's have another big week, guys. Let's make some money.